Hi, Coach Jaclyn Lanae here. Author Jaclyn Lanae to some of you, just Jackie to friends and family. Anyway, I'm here doing this podcast because of you. And I just want to take a second to thank you. All those of you who have inspired me, encouraged me, supported me, believed in me, even shared your lives with me so that I could learn, so that we could learn together. That's the whole point, right? I am able to do this. I'm here doing this because of you, because you have inspired that. And I'm so grateful. Thank you so much. For those of you who are new here, this podcast is all about relationships. And I mean, of course, romantic relationships, but also familial relationships, platonic ones, and the relationship that we have to ourselves, which, in my opinion, is the most important one. It's about us in relationships, the ways we get it right, the ways we get it wrong, the ways that we can learn and grow as humans through the experience of being in relationships, through the lessons that are taught to us through relationships. If you would like to join in the conversation, please head over to patreon.com/author Jaclyn Lanae. That's where I do kind of the deeper dives. I get into the more mystical, spiritual versions of the ideas that we talk about on the podcast, the stuff that you're going to hear today. That's also where I share the actionable tips, the tools that I have been given over the years, and the ways that they can be applied in our daily lives because of what we're learning in our relationships to make our lives happier, to make ourselves happier, to live with more joy, to feel more empowered. That's at patreon.com/Jaclyn Lanae. That's also where you can get the nitty gritty details of my personal life, the way that I use these tools, and the story about how I ended up living in Colombia, South America, and what relationships are like here at my age in this place in the world and with these people, this completely different culture, all the behind the scenes stuff that inspire the perspectives that you're probably going to hear about today. You can also connect with me on my website at Coach Jaclyn Lanae. That's where you'll find books, workshops, private coaching sessions, tarot card readings, meditations, all kinds of useful little tools to support you in your personal spiritual quest. That's at authorjaclynlanae.com. JaclynLanae. I hope you enjoyed the podcast. Okay, so welcome to the Sex, Love, and the Self podcast. Today we are talking to Coach
Ellyn.
Yes!
I didn't know if I was supposed to do that space.
Nope, not your fault at all. I wasn't clear.
Hi, everybody. I'm Coach Ellyn. Please leave that in because that is so good.
I love it. Well, that's really kind of the style of my podcast is it's just messy and honest and whatever.
I feel like I already am tearing up because I've laughed so hard just in our little intro conversation. So this is going to be fun today. Hi, guys. I'm Ellyn.
We're going to get into some cool shit today about dating and empowerment in dating and the way that we can kind of transfer the lessons that we learn in our professional world in terms of empowerment into our dating lives and more of a, self-empowerment kind of lens. But before we get to that, I want to hear a little bit about what Miss Ellyn does in her coaching world.
Well, I'll tell you right now, I'm the first person to say that I will probably never coach you in relationships unless it's boundary related. I am a burnout coach by trade and by training. And I really arrived at doing that because of my experiences with burnout in grad school. Like people always ask me how'd you end up doing this work? Cause I'm a weirdo doing this work. I'm a former scientist. I really, in a lot of respects, have no right to do this work, but actually my background is in immunology, like the study of your immune system and what is stress if not your immune system. So in a lot of respects, I do belong doing this work, but anyways, tangent. My long story short always of how I ended up doing this work is I burned out when I was in graduate school.
Yeah.
And that I realize so much now, especially as we were kind of having our conversation at the start. Yeah. I realize so much now that I really didn't know who I was when I was in my 20s. I feel like I was chasing validation. I was chasing, tell me I'm doing a good job. I was chasing being a people pleaser. I just wanted to be liked. And the insecurity I've always felt in the dating realm, I honestly don't feel like I had any ownership of who I was when I was dating until I got to my 30s. I was somebody who was genuinely excited to turn 30. Like, let's
Yes.
leave my 20s and all of the insecurity and the not knowing myself. Let's leave all that behind. Let's leave all that in the past. I just knocked over my phone where I was trying to time lapse things. Hey guys, we're messy today.
Yes.
It's that kind of day.
This is just honest human, yes, honest human experiences. That's what we're sharing here. That's what we're getting into.
Exactly. Exactly. And so it's like, I feel like now too, knowing all of that about myself in the past, I've learned how not to date. We'll just say that. I've learned a
Ooh,
lot about how not to date, not dating from a place of loneliness, not dating from a place of insecurity, not doing, which there's these people who I listen to their podcasts who are like, oh yeah, I went on like 60 dates in this period of time, and I'm just like, that sounds like the worst thing ever to me, and there's no way for me and my personality that would be a productive exercise
right,
in
yeah.
any way, shape, or form. Like, I already struggle sometimes with treating self-care like a box I need to check. I
Yeah,
don't want to treat dating and relationships like a box I need to check either. So I
yes.
feel like I've learned a lot about how not to date, and
Yeah.
how now in my this new chapter of my life, I just turned 35, how I want to date and how I want to approach all of this moving forward. So that's as brief of a little intro and synopsis as I'll give right now.
Well, I love that. And I love that you come from an immunology background. Am I saying that correctly? Immunology?
Yes, yeah, nailed it.
Because I think we often sort of compartmentalize the way that we are affected in our lives by the circumstances that happen, around us
Mhm.
and in our lives. And we sort of turn a blind eye to that, whether it's, medication or just, fully ignoring it. So I think you are really a beautifully ideal person to be dealing with something like burnout because because it also has that, it's stress. It's
Mhm.
obviously, I love
Like,
that.
what is more stressful than dating in relationships? If we're like being honest, if we're being
Yes.
honest, like, what is more stressful than dating, especially like romantic and intimate relationships? There's a
Yes,
lot of stress there. So
exactly.
it's funny that I do the work that I do, but I also am simultaneously like, don't ask me to coach you on your relationship.
Yes.
Unless it's boundaries. I got boundaries handled. But like, I struggle in this. So I'm not about to be the person who's like, oh, I got you. Let me teach you how to
Yes.
date. But I will 100% share my experiences and my thoughts on like burnout and dating and
Yes.
body image and all sorts of stuff like that. Because damn, has that colored the last 20 years of my life. 25
Right.
probably.
Right, exactly. Well, and one of the reasons that I love this little collaboration that we've started is because that's actually my, I center in on relationships, whether they be romantic or platonic or familiar or whatever. But I don't know anything about the business side of stuff. I can't help people. So I love this. I love this. But I
We
want
feel
to
each
ask
other's weaknesses for sure.
yes, exactly. Good compliments. So, but my curiosity, I guess, is like where you became aware. At what point did you start to become aware that the version of you that was dating in your 20s was, can I be so brass as to say, incongruent with who you really were or are or becoming?
Oh gosh. I actually feel like, if I'm being completely honest, that awareness probably came in my early 30s. I think I started to notice it, but I don't think I could articulate it in my late
Yeah,
20s. I think in my late 20s, I started realizing I'm the kind of person that I would go on dating apps, and then I would only be on dating apps for a period of time, and then I would jump off of dating apps, and then there would be
yeah,
this extended hiatus from being on dating apps, and then I would get back on somewhat impulsively. And I think
yep,
what I started to realize, and this is why I say I don't think I got over that until my early 30s, because I still did it a little bit in my early 30s.
yeah,
I think I started to realize that I was on dating apps purely for validation. I think
yeah,
my late 20s is where I really started to realize how much of a validation seeker I was. Like,
yeah,
when I would meet somebody out at a bar, or when I would match with somebody on a dating app and then we would go meet up to go on a date, it felt more like validation. The thing that I was latched onto about it is the validation of it, and not necessarily is this a prospective partner for me? I think I
yeah,
started realizing it is that dating was validation seeking. And then I also feel like I started to realize, and this was actually the last person I dated, was the first time I outright called myself out. I know I had dabbled in dating for out of loneliness before, and I knew it wasn't a good thing. But the last person I dated after my ex, 100% I shouldn't have dated him. 100%. I dated him because I was lonely. I dated him because I'd gotten my heart broken about 9 months before, and I missed having a partner in crime and somebody to text and somebody to do stuff with. And I'm like, you'll do. Like, I shouldn't have dated him. Like, I dated him because he liked me. And there really wasn't any part of me that was 100% sold on him ever. But I liked having somebody who liked me.
Yes.
And I think that was the aha I had in my very early 30s, late 20s, is I started to realize that I was dating for all of the wrong reasons, which isn't fair to the people I was dating. Frankly, isn't fair to me. I'm busy as hell. Like, why am I wasting my time with somebody who I don't actually have a romantic connection with? If it's about sex, we can get that elsewhere. I don't need to invest a lot of time into a relationship that I don't actually want.
Yes.
And that was the aha I started to have.
I love that. I love that introspection. And I think it's so interesting. The vast majority of my coaching clients are, romantic relationships, perhaps, obviously. And one of the big things is that there is this like, why am I choosing this person? And that's the thing about relationships. Of course, we're choosing them over and over and over on a day-to-day basis, on a minute-to-minute basis, on an annual basis, whatever. And if there comes a point where like, you're not sure why you're choosing this person, I feel like that's it's just an opportunity to dig in a little bit more and be like, okay, what am I really after here?
And I also think it's like something I realized in my last relationship was the whole notion of settling. I think I always really struggled with the notion of settling of, I feel like there's this happy balance of, am I settling for somebody who I don't actually want?
Exactly.
Or am I choosing them? I do feel like that is a happy balance I've struggled with in the past too. The last person that I was truly in love with, and do actually miss our relationship, except how it ended. How it ended was shit, but I miss our relationship. But like, I constantly went back and forth. I knew there were things that I wanted in a relationship that he didn't meet.
Yeah.
But I couldn't quite, and I actually think this was almost like my self-sabotage and my downfall in that situation, is I had a lot of trouble navigating, am I ignoring red flags of that should be signs that I need to move on from this relationship? Or am I simply just choosing this imperfect human? And I think I got so in my head about that I actually kind of pushed him away.
Yeah, I could totally see that. And I love that you talked about being in your head about it, because I think that's one of the things too, we intellectualize so easily.
Oh, I'm so analytical. Like, honestly, teach me. I wish I'm not a woo-woo human, and I wish I was in some ways, because I need a shirt that says, let me overanalyze this. And a coffee mug and a hat.
Yes. Overanalyzers Anonymous, baby. We got to start a group or something. It's like a plague. It's like the modern day emotional.
It is. Yeah, and it's one of those things that, again, I've been validated for that my entire life. Yeah. My ability to analyze the living hell out of somebody benefited me a lot in science, benefits me a lot still in the work that I do, in speaking and in coaching, does not benefit me in relationships. And I don't know how to turn it off sometimes.
Yes, I get that 100%. And I think a big part of that is getting out of our heads and into our bodies, like the feeling. And I think that ties into this idea that we talked about a little bit before of, body image things, and just like that general confidence walking into a room or a date or whatever, because you touched on it before too, with this idea that, am I settling? And I think that there's such a epidemic for women specifically, but for all humans, of knowing our value in romantic relationships. I feel like we kind of are finally catching up to like I know what I'm worth in the boardroom, question. There is no question anymore. That's just true. I know that I have important things to bring. And we walk into relationships and there's still this like, I don't know. And we idealize the men. They're so great. And he's so special. And yes, he's got flaws, but I can get over that. It's going to be okay. We can just, I'm growing and I'm getting better. And there's value in those things, I think, for sure. Also, I think that the way that we actually feel in the relationship is something that we gloss over, because we think about how it should be and how we can adjust ourselves to make the relationship good. So
if you hear me typing, it's literally because I have things that I want to bring up that I don't want to forget to bring up. So I just wrote one of them down.
Yes, me too. I'm over here scratching notes all the whole time. Absolutely. Absolutely, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
No, I'm with you, and I wanted to ask, because one of the things that I actually struggle with that I'd be interested to hear your take on, and I'm happy to share my experience with.
Yeah.
I have been, and I actually think these are the 2 points that I wanted to bring up, and I'm just gonna bring them up together. I have been told that part of my issue, the reason why I'm still single, blah, 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 thanks, mom, is that I'm very independent.
Uh-huh.
My mom likes to say you've literally been independent since you could walk, which I don't think is untrue. I like I don't need anybody.
No.
And I don't even need like my good friendships. I do on occasion. Like don't get me wrong. Like but I'm very self-sufficient. Like if I have emotions I need to process, I will deal. Like if
Yes.
I like I take care of myself. And
Yes.
I have been told that that is why I'm single.
Yes.
I have also been told, oh God, the other thing just went out of my brain. Come
Oh,
back.
I hate when that happens.
Come back. I've been told, oh, and I've been told that I'm intimidating. Like,
Yes.
for
Uh-huh.
example, the things that I am the most proud of, the things that I want to shout from the rooftops is the fact that I completely made a massive career pivot in my late 20s. I literally dropped out of a PhD program to start a
Yeah.
business, and now I get paid mid four figures to be brought out to speak and run workshops for big companies. And I'm
Yes.
proud as hell of that. And because I'm independent, I did that all by myself. I am a proud solopreneur. I don't want a team. But
Yes.
I've been told by a lot of people in my life that I'm independent and intimidating. And I don't know how to date in the conventional ways of dating without, like, I'm not going to not be myself.
No.
Like,
Yes.
I don't know how to date with that. So I'm curious, like, do you think this whole, like, you're too independent thing, like, what do you think about that? Do you think it's bullshit? Do you think there's some validity to it? I'm curious what you think about
I think
that.
absolutely there's validity to it, and absolutely we should ignore it because
Okay.
okay, yes, I can admit that the vast majority of men that I interact with, whether it be in my personal life or as the partners in whatever context they are of my clients, they want to be needed. They want to be the hero. They want to step into the story and feel like they're, taking care of us in some way. They
Yeah.
are wired to do that. And so I can see why people that say that strong women are intimidating because men need to be needed and all of that. I think there is validity to that. I also
Yeah.
think there is absolutely no usefulness in giving it credibility, as
Yeah.
in changing the way that we interact in the world to make men comfortable, to make them feel like the hero, to make them, put them up on that white horse and let them come in
Yeah.
and save us. Like bullshit. Absolutely
Yeah.
not. Men
Yeah.
have to evolve. And that's not to say that we don't also have work to do.
Yeah. No,
But
and
men,
it's making me think like I maybe what needs to happen is like don't be intimidated by the independent woman because my perspective is like I always have said I don't need you, but I want you. And the
yes.
fact that I want you
Yes.
means that you are meeting a need. I
Yes.
can't provide
Exactly.
myself physical touch. I mean, I can, but
Yes.
it's sure as shit not the same.
It's
Like,
not the
I
same.
can't I can't provide myself with companionship. I literally said just a second ago, I've dated out of loneliness because I
Yes.
missed having somebody that was kind of my partner in crime, the person I always shared stuff with. I do at times, as independent as I am, like I feel like when independent women say they're independent, they're not saying they have zero needs. They are saying they can take
Exactly.
care of themselves.
Exactly. That's exactly the thing that I was going to say as well, actually. And I think
Yeah.
the key to like bridging that gap is
Mhm.
to open up and expose the vulnerabilities that we have
Yeah.
to the partners, the potential partners in our lives, to see where they can fill those voids. They can be the hero. They can step in and be needed because I don't need you to pay my bills. I don't need you to
No,
fix my dishwasher. I don't need you for
no.
any of that fucking shit.
I don't
What
need you to
I
carry
need,
my groceries even. I'm buff.
yes, yes, yes,
I might
exactly.
still want you to because I'm buff, but I'm lazy.
Yes. I don't like being treated that way. You know what I mean? Like we
Yeah.
deserve a little
Yeah,
bit of that nurturing. And I think that's one of the
exactly.
ways that we can, when we're exploring at the very beginning of a relationship, when we're kind of exploring the fitness of it. There's
I
the
like
other
that.
thing I want to talk about. Yeah, the other thing I want to talk about is the feeling, and I'll get to that in a second. But also the becoming comfortable enough with our weaknesses, the places
Yep.
where we do need other people, we do need
Mm-hmm.
support, we do need help or whatever, and let
Yeah.
that be shown and let that be made obvious to this person,
Mm-hmm.
because that's the place that they can feel that,
Yeah.
there's strength and like
Yeah.
we're complimenting each other.
Yeah. It honestly makes me think the very first thing I think of is I'm independent and I'm proudly independent. But if somebody asked me like, and actually I went on a date with a guy who actually really liked this. We literally almost treated it like, those like get to know each other like decks. I think he like
Yes.
had one of those on his phone and we were just like going through and answering his questions. I don't
I
remember
love
where it
that.
came from, but like we actually talked about like a what's a weakness of yours, what's a like fault of yours, and we
Yes.
made a deal with each other like we're not going to do the like bullshit corporate interview version where like you say a weakness that's actually a strength. We're not
Right.
going to
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
that one. And
I'm too.
mine is I'm very independent but I'm very stubborn. I'm a
Yes.
Taurus. I'm very
Oh,
stubborn, so like I sometimes need help and won't ask for it, and I recognize that's an
yes.
issue that I have. And
Yes.
and this is why I've always said that, like, I need somebody who challenges me because I need somebody who doesn't always take exactly what I say at face value. They push a little bit. So they
Okay.
might see that I need somebody or that I need something, but I'm not willing to ask. And I need somebody who says, like, no, really, like for example, ex-boyfriend. Like, I went on a trip and I was on a family trip for like a week, 10 days, and I got back kind of late at night from that trip. And he's like, what do you want me to get you from the grocery store? I will literally bring it to your apartment so that you have food. And my
Oh,
immediate impulse of that, I know. See, he always used to say he was acts of service. To me, that is an act of service. But his version of acts of service was actually, I think, more gifts because he would just buy me shit. And I didn't like that. I'm not a gifts person. That is not a love
yeah.
language of mine. But acts, I thought that was so sweet. But my immediate
Yeah.
impulse would say, no, you don't need to do that because the people pleaser
Yes.
in me doesn't want to burden people, doesn't want people to
Yes.
have to take care of my shit. The independent in me doesn't want people to have to take care of that shit for me. But this is one of the few times he did challenge me because generally this was a point of contention in our relationship is he pushed back and he was just like, Ellyn, you're getting back at like 10 and you have to work the next morning. You're not going to have time to get food and I want you to have food the next day. What can I get you at the grocery store? And then he came and picked me up at the airport and it was all cute. But like that to me, I need that because I'm stubborn and my impulse is to say, no, I'm fine. I don't need you.
Yes.
Because I've had to do that for the majority of my adult life. I've been single for the majority of my adult life, and I will be the first person to admit that that is actually probably to my detriment because I'm way too comfortable being single and doing shit by myself.
Yeah. I get that. But I want to celebrate that too, because I feel
Mm-hmm.
like in my personal version of the reality, I went the other way. I was a
Mm-hmm.
compulsive relationship person, and like long ones, 4, 5, 9 years,
I
whatever.
love that we've got that very different like
Yes.
experience too.
Yes. And coming to the same realizations about the
Mm-hmm.
reality of dating and how we can show up in it. So the person that I'm with at the moment is wildly inappropriate for me in terms of what the outside world would say
Yeah.
is, the right guy.
Yeah.
Also, it's the happiest relationship I've probably ever had. And one of the things that I had to absorb for myself was, first of all, I was projecting in previous relationships this person, this love, whatever, into some future version. Like, and I'm not even like
I
a
do
house
that.
and kids kind of person, but I was just like, we're going to travel the world together and we're going to be rich and happy. And we're going to, I just had
Mm-hmm.
all of this pink cloud bullshit built up
I do
in
that.
some theoretic future. This guy, because I am, guarding my heart a little bit, but also because we are so wildly inappropriate in terms of the outside world's perspective, it's just very like in the moment right now, he's here as long as he's here. And when
Mm-hmm.
he's not, because I
Mm-hmm.
also love being single. And I continue to remind myself when this ends, because it will, even if we lasted, happy ever
Mm-hmm.
after, whatever, he's going to die or I'm going to die,
Yeah.
whatever it was. I will be very happy single. I will be very happy going back to
Yeah.
being single. I am totally fine with that.
Yeah.
But I
I do
think
feel
that
like I've gotten to the point where I'm happy being single. Sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you
yes,
off.
no, that's totally fine. I'm getting a little long-winded here and getting circling back to the point that I wanted to make. And that was just this idea of getting so invested in being comfortable single, which I think is incredibly important, that we stop allowing ourselves to receive love. We stop
Yeah.
allowing ourselves to receive care and support and And I
Yeah.
think that is work. Like I absolutely am in complete support of you waiting for or
Yeah.
reaching out in whatever way you do for the right guy. But also, should you want to, I think one of the things that we don't realize we do energetically is we put blocks up to shit that scares us. And if we don't want to be cared for because that makes us vulnerable and because we like to be the boss and because that makes us dependent on somebody and we don't want to burden anybody,
For
all the
people who
things.
can't see the video right now, I'm nodding like a lot.
Yeah, it's scary AF to let somebody take
Yeah.
care of us. And the
Well, and
fact
I
that
think
you
the scary
can.
thing for me, actually, more so than to let somebody take care of me, the scary thing for me is all of the times this is where the scientist in me comes in.
Yeah.
I am a past data. What has past experience, past data shown me? And if I don't have
Yes.
data to support, like even in my business, if I don't have data to support something working, it's really hard for me to go all in on it. And in
Yes.
relationships, I have a lot of past data to say as soon as I get comfortable and as soon as I fully say, yep, I love you and I want a future with you, they leave.
Yep.
And I have 3 examples of that in my life of people that I loved a lot who, as soon as I was just like, yep, you're my person, I'm in, they pieced.
Yes.
And
No.
that's the part that's scary for me is past data has shown me that when I love fully, they leave.
Yes.
So
Yes.
my block that's up is, and I actually feel like this block is, and I got called out on it by a very good friend. See, these are the people I need in my life. This is why I like to be
Yes.
challenged. I have a
Yes.
very good friend who used to be my coach who said to me, she's like, Ellyn, you need to date somebody that is out of your league. Because now what you do is you date people that don't deserve you because you
Yes.
like to have the upper hand. And I'm like, 100% I like to have the upper hand. She goes,
Yes.
you need to date somebody that you're scared to lose.
Yes.
And that is, yeah, that's scary for me. I don't like
Yes.
it. I need to do it,
Well,
but I don't like it.
so how does it feel? Can you get your head around the idea of just not having any like you're my person hard stop period and for the foreseeable future, but
Mhm.
rather this is my person for the present
For
moment that I'm in?
now, I think I actually think, and this is a weird thing to say that this is a step in the right direction, but I used to be somebody who was very like averse to one night stands. I didn't have a
Yeah.
one night stand until I was in my late 20s. And it was actually when I was
Ooh.
traveling around the world, the year that I lived in Medellin for a
Yep.
month. Yeah. It was then that I had my first like legitimate one night stands where I didn't attach any emotion to it. And
Yeah.
then I got into a relationship where that happened again, and I started projecting into the future and self sabotage and all of that. And so I almost feel like I took a step forward and then I took a step back. But I had another
Yeah.
one night stand earlier this year. So maybe that's a weird way to, it's not a culturally acceptable way to say that's a step in the right direction. But I actually do think it was. It was me just being like,
Absolutely.
this is what you are right now.
Yes.
And you do not need to be anything more. And actually, I was really proud of myself because there was, firstly, he broke in a very long dry spell. So thank you to him.
Yeah, girl.
But very long dry spell. But like I actually also think I was really proud of myself because past me would have, when he reached out, well, actually, first and foremost, when he didn't reach out initially after we'd hooked up, I left him my phone number. And then he didn't reach out for a period of time. And I didn't fixate on that. I
Yes.
didn't freak out about the fact that he didn't reach out, which I was really proud of. And then when he did
Yes.
reach out, he reached out on a night where it was kind of like yesterday for me, where I told you I ran a 3.5 hour workshop yesterday and I was dead to the world. I had
Yes.
a day like that where he reached out and he texted me at like 8 o'clock in the morning, was like literally trying to line up the booty call for later that night. And I had a day where I would just like, honestly, sex doesn't even sound fun right now. Like
Yes.
sex sounds terrible right now. I am
Yes.
too
Dog.
mentally, physically, and emotionally exhausted to even entertain someone. And he was trying to make it all like, I'll do all the work. Like he was trying to like make it sound super appealing. And I'm like, he's like, I told him, I was like, I just want a burger and I want to watch Netflix. And he was just like, well, I'll bring you a burger and you can watch Netflix. And like, he was working it. And I was just like, no, I don't want that. And I was really proud of myself for that too, because I think previous version of me would have been like, you are showing interest, you are validating me, Therefore, I'm going to say yes, even if it puts me out and even if it puts me in a situation that I really am
Yes.
not mentally and emotionally wanting to be in, I'm going to say
Yes.
yes to that. And that was earlier this year. I was really proud of myself. I'm like, nope,
Right?
if I never hear from you again, I'm cool with it after this because I've just
Yes.
shot you down. But like, you gave me what I needed in the moment and you want to give me what you need now, but it's not what I need. And I'm going to say
Yes.
no. And that felt very empowering for me to just be like, this doesn't have to be anything more than what it was.
Yes, exactly. I love that. And I think that drawing that boundary, energetically
Mhm.
speaking, you are telling yourself that your needs are more important than getting this validation from this other person, and that you have everything you need within
Mhm.
you. That you don't need it to come from the outside guy. You don't need him to bring you the burger and
Yep.
cuddle you on the couch. When you want
The
that
burger
and
would have been
he
nice,
wants,
but you can drop off the burger and leave like an Uber
right?
Eats delivery person. Um,
Yes, exactly, exactly. Or I can order it on, it's Rappi here. I don't DoorDash or whatever it is in the States.
oh yeah.
Exactly.
I remember that.
Exactly. The situation that you had that way, I love that you handled it that way. And I want to celebrate the shit out of that because you honored yourself first. And I think that's so important, particularly energetically.
Mhm.
And when opportunities come along, do you feel like you can acknowledge that you are able to carry the groceries, but you're going to let the guy do it? Or you are able to take care of the fact that you're going to show up at 10 o'clock at night starving, but you're willing to let the guy do it because that's his way of, because you can receive. Or do you feel like you can receive that love?
That's a really hard question for me to answer because opportunities like that don't arise very much for me. And this is
Yeah.
where the lifestyle I've created kind of does me a disservice. I work from home. I live in a
Yeah.
500 square foot studio apartment. I travel a lot for my work. So
Yeah.
I don't have and I'm not on I'm really I don't like dating apps. I don't want to meet
Yeah.
somebody on a dating app. The guy that
Yeah.
this happened with, I literally met him at actually I met him at a gay bar, which to me I like because that shows a lot of
Yes.
it shows a lot of him being confident in himself. So I'm into that.
Yes.
I met him at a gay bar after the Super Bowl.
Yes.
And
I
I
love this.
like that. So but that is I do think where yes and no. I do feel like I am at the point where I will let people do things for me more,
Yes.
but I don't feel like I have a lot of opportunity to test that.
Yeah. Yeah. I get
So
that
even though
completely.
and this is where I always struggle is I do feel like I'm in a much better place, but
Yeah.
because of the life I'm leading, I don't have a lot of opportunity to test that. So kind of a
Yeah.
TBD answer on that,
Yeah.
to be determined, but I think so. If I'm
Yes.
being honest, I don't know.
Yes, yes, I understand that completely. But I think that that's a beautiful thing because you are self-aware enough to know that you've made that growth and that
Mhm.
you can be conscious in the moment. When you're, I don't know, whatever, relaxing on the couch, the very little that
Yeah.
that I imagine you do that, but that you
I
can,
do that a lot. I'm a queen of a movie night.
yes, yes. And that's so important. It's such a like
Yeah.
part of our definition of success, whatever. But
Yeah.
when there is somebody that wants to, be able to make you
Mhm.
dinner. Can you just lay there and relax and feel like the pampered princess while someone works
Mm.
for you in
Yeah,
your kitchen?
actually, the last guy I dated,
Yeah.
he did that all the time. He actually used to throw that all out all the time. Boyfriend material, boyfriend material. Look what
Yes.
I just did for you. I was like,
Yeah.
dude, you have all sorts of other things that don't make you boyfriend material, but you did cook a very very great brisket. Thank you.
Yes.
I
Nice.
actually my deal, my ex and I had this deal, and if it's ever a like, because I like the splitting responsibilities thing. If it is
Yeah.
ever a cook versus clean, I will always cook. I hate doing the dishes. So like
Yes.
the perfect man for me is let me cook for you. You clean my kitchen afterward.
Yes. 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 I absolutely
Yeah.
love that. And I love that you have that clarity about it. I think that that's
Mhm.
so important, which actually
I know
speaks
the
to the
shit that I
idea.
don't like to do.
Right. Yes, exactly. Well, and it's, they would maybe even call it shadow work in some circles, but it's
Yeah.
it's just this like these are the parts of me that are not perfect in the outside world, or they're not, parts of myself that I
Mhm.
want to show necessarily to the outside world. Also, they're who I really am.
Before I was thinking about like if I didn't spend that time figuring out who the heck I was, there
Yes.
was somebody who this is one of those that kind of hurts my heart a little bit. There was somebody who was a very good friend of mine when I was in grad school. We actually became really good friends because I'm going to make another football reference here. The
I
Seahawks
love
and the
it.
Patriots were playing each other in the Super Bowl. And he was a Patriots fan. I'm from Seattle, so I'm a Seahawks fan. And we had a Super Bowl bet that whoever lost had to take the other person out to dinner. Come to
Ooh.
find out, I didn't realize this at the time, but apparently he was super into me.
Oh,
And I wasn't like not into him. I just kind of wasn't thinking about it in that respect.
yeah.
And we ended up becoming very, very close, very, very good friends. He would, when I was like walking back from, I lived in a college town. So like I'd walk back from downtown at like 2 o'clock in the
Oh,
morning
yeah.
and it would be perfectly safe. But he'd always be like, call me. Like, and
Yeah,
I would
yeah.
call him and he would talk on the phone with me while I walked home. And it was very, very sweet. He got his PhD. He was a couple of years ahead in the program than I was. He got his PhD and he was about to go start his postdoc in a completely different state. And right before he left, he legitimately asked me out. And I said
Oh,
no, because I've
oh,
done long distance before. And
yeah.
I didn't want, like, our relationship would have been starting basically long
Yeah.
distance. And it wasn't that I didn't like him, I did, but I didn't want it to be long distance from the
Yeah.
get go. That just didn't seem like a good setup. So we stayed really, really good friends. And I think now about, if I didn't spend all of this time figuring out who the heck I was, what I wanted, what not, I honestly think we would have gotten together. And actually, when I dropped out of grad school, our friendship completely fell apart because he
Whoa.
was one of the people that didn't respect me leaving grad school. He was
Whoa.
very vocal about, I think you're making a mistake. I think you're going to regret it. I think it's stupid. Like, he was very vocal about it. And I finally got to the point with him where I was like, look, I don't ask that you understand this decision. I just ask that you
Yes.
respect it. That's it.
Yes.
And he couldn't. So that was
Um,
literally the last time we communicated, was when this went down. And we have a mutual friend who basically said, she's like, I think in his head, you were going to be Dr. Ellyn. He was going to be Dr. whatever. And you guys were going to get together after you got your PhD program. And I think you destroyed that for him. And I think that's why
yeah.
your friendship fell apart, which that was a really interesting take. But I think if I hadn't done all of this work on myself, that's the path I think I would have been on, which I
Yes.
don't think that would have been a bad path. But professionally, I don't think I would have been happy.
No.
And I don't think he would have been happy with me, because I think that would have happened just further down the line of the
Right.
person that he thought he was with. She's not that person
Right.
anymore.
Yes.
And so
Exactly.
in a lot of ways, like, I'm really, really grateful for all of the like tumultuousness of the
Yes.
last 10 years of my life. I wouldn't have wanted to end up with somebody in my 20s who doesn't like who I've become, because I love who I've become.
Exactly. 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 And that's the other thing about this idea of, really focusing on, not that I mean, the dude and I dream together all the time about the future.
Mhm.
It's not that there's just this like taboo topic that we don't talk about, that's somewhere in
Yeah.
the future. It's just more that I don't project what my happy life will look like, doesn't necessarily include him. If he's there
Mhm.
when I get there, awesome. If he's not,
Yeah.
that's fine. Because I think that's the other danger, exactly what you're talking about. We don't even realize it, but we make this artificial version of a person that we project out into the future,
Mhm.
that, they're going to be
Mhm.
almost exactly the way they are right now
Yeah.
forever, and we're going to hold on
Yeah.
to that, and we're going to be happy ever after forever. And humans don't work that way. It's just
No.
not. And it would have been, as a
Mhm.
friend of yours, if I can call myself that, it would have been sad
I
to
think
see
so.
you. Thank you. It would have been sad to see you with someone that was so attached to the label and
Mhm.
not the
The
soul of who
person.
you are.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
That
It.
that it was that fragile. Okay, so the thing I want to talk about is, or ask you about more accurately,
Mhm.
is how you feel when you walk into a date, when you walk into a dating situation.
Ugh. I feel, I think anxious is probably the best word to choose
Okay.
in that situation. Anxious of, and again, I've had a lot of bad dating experiences, so I do feel like the anxiousness comes from, please don't be like this again. Please don't be like please actually look like your pictures. Please actually like have the ability to make normal human conversation. Like, please be fun. Please ask me things about myself. Like,
Yes.
I think there's a lot of that. And I would be absolutely bullshitting you and lying if I didn't say there was a little bit of please like me there
Yes, of
as
course.
well.
There has to
Like,
be.
I
Yeah,
think that will always be there. But I do
absolutely.
think I've gotten to the point more and more, thank God for 30s. I feel like I've gotten to that point more and more where I've just kind of been like, if they don't like me. And if it's a shitty date, that's fine. And I just go home. But
Yes.
there's definitely anticipation and there's excitement and there's there's definitely some what if
Yeah.
this works out. What if this? I mean,
Yes.
I've I've watched enough Disney and watched enough rom-coms that I almost can't control that part of my brain. So I think anxious is probably the best word. And it's simultaneously nerves in the positive negative sense and excitement
Yeah.
and fear. And I think anxious probably encapsulates that.
Okay, I totally get that. So the energetic coach version of me wants to offer a suggestion, but I want to know first if you
Yeah.
want the suggestion. Okay.
I mean, I feel
If
like
you,
I know what you're gonna say, but yeah.
yeah, do you want to take a
I'm
stab at it first?
I mean, I feel like if I go in, it's almost like it's a weird parallel to draw, but it's almost like when you're making a sale in a business. If you go in with desperation, you're going to turn that person off.
Uh-huh.
And I feel like that's what you're going to say about this situation. But I will say, though I'm anxious, I am very, very good at hiding. Like once I get in there and once I like see the person, like I'm very good at putting people at ease. Like my
Yeah.
anxiousness is not usually something that leeches onto other people. And as soon as I even just spend a little bit of time with you and I'm like, okay, you've got good energy, like you're even if you don't look like your pictures, like you're like remotely attractive. You don't have to be like fucking Ken. Like I don't like I'm not expecting you to be some like perfect standard of yourself because I'm not. So I
Right.
do feel like even though I go into it with anxiousness, it's more of like the lead up to it. And as soon as I like get in there, I'm like, okay, we're on a date and it's cool because they're just another human and we're gonna bullshit and it's gonna be fine. Like I feel like I'm able to switch that off as soon as I get into the moment and see like that they're there and that they have a good energy. If they have a bad energy, that anxiousness is probably not ever.
Oh yeah, absolutely. No, I understand.
Is that kind of
100%.
what you were gonna say?
Well, it feeds into the idea because the
Yeah.
thing that I was going to say about anxiousness in general is that it's self-protective. And so
Oh
energetically
yeah.
speaking, you're putting up a wall, energetically
Yeah.
speaking, around your emotions, your
Mhm.
heart, your ability to be vulnerable in this situation.
Mhm.
Of course, this is a brand new person you've never met
Yeah.
before. That's absolutely the thing you need to do until you know
Yeah.
it's the situation. But from an energetic standpoint, in terms of the approach, if you can teach yourself to go in from a neutral energy standpoint, you
Mhm.
may have a more open energy when that first interaction happens, when there's that very first, like, handshake, eye lock, whatever the hell
Yeah.
happens in the first minutes of the date. So that's
Yeah.
the thought that I wanted to put out there. But the other
I can
thing
see that. Okay, go ahead.
the other thing that I'm curious about is what do you feel like when you walk on stage for a speaking gig?
Same thing.
Yeah?
Same thing. Honestly, I this is what I boil all of that. I have been doing musical theater and voice performance and shit like that my entire life.
Yes.
And what I've started to realize, I literally typed this on a LinkedIn post earlier today. Like, it just means we care. Like when we
Yes.
have feelings like that, and I've started to realize that's not a bad thing. Like if I'm walking
No.
into a speaking gig and I have nerves and anxiousness, it's because I care and I sure as shit should care. Like
Yes.
if I'm walking into a date, like I no longer I guess when I say anxiousness, I don't think of that anxiousness as being a bad thing. I think of it as I care about the outcome. I care about not wasting my time and I care about not wasting their time. And I care
Yeah.
about making a genuine connection in whichever way that pans out.
Yes.
Like the
Yes.
last
Yes.
guy I met on a dating app, I live in a county in Washington that has a Air Force base. So a
Oh,
lot
okay.
of the people on dating apps around here are military. And
Ah.
I met a guy on this dating app who literally, hey, we talked about sex more than I've ever talked about sex on a first date
Ooh.
ever, which was a really interesting date. And actually, I didn't mind it. It was actually very oddly comfortable. We were into the same things. I'll just say that. Um,
I love
but
that.
but like actually we had this date. We actually had the date at like a barcade. They served alcohol and then it was an arcade. It was
Yes.
very fun.
Yes.
I highly recommend that as a first date.
Yes. Me too.
But he told me that first night, he's like, look, I'm shipping out in like a month and a half. So this is what I'm looking for. And he was very transparent. And I
Yes.
kind of had to in the moment decide like, am I okay with that? And I was just like, yeah, I'm okay with that. I'm just
Yes.
getting back into dating. Like I don't need this to be like I think I've started to realize more and more, and perhaps this is something I should have said earlier, is that every time I go on a date, this doesn't need to be my person for the next several years. This is the
Yes.
person I'm going on a date with tonight. And
Yes.
the anxiousness is honestly probably 70% excitement, 30% nerves.
Nice.
And so that's why I kind of almost don't think of it as I care about making a connection. But if that
Yeah.
connection is just for the night or just for the next month, just for the next 6 months, firstly, who the hell knows? And I don't want to waste mental energy trying to figure that out.
Right.
But I
It would be
also like,
impossible to do.
yeah. And I feel like that's kind of what I've more started to step into. Is just be like,
Yeah.
and that actually, I liked that because I like certainty. I like not having to put any guesswork in. So I really appreciate it. And same with the guy I met after the Super Bowl. He was just like, this is not anything serious for me. Is that same way for you? And I was just like, yep,
Yeah.
same. When I
Yeah.
left him my number, I was just like, let me know if you want to have some more fun. Like, it was
Yes.
not literally like, take me out on a date, man. Like, it was just
Yeah,
like,
right?
this is what it is. This is what it is.
Yes.
And I actually really appreciate having that certainty from my end. And I actually think it's easier for me to show up and make the best decisions for me when I have that certainty as to what it is.
Yes,
And I don't
absolutely.
care if it changes eventually. Like, if we thought it was casual, but we end up really liking each other and it
Yes.
changes, I'm okay with that too. But I
Yes.
like having the certainty of going and knowing what it is.
Yes. I have the exact same, well, I don't want to say the exact same experience. That's so passe. The point is, when I was doing the casual sex because that's all I had space for
Mm-hmm.
emotionally and in every other way in my lifetime, whatever. I actually noted that they wanted me more. They were more attentive. They were more, when
Mm-hmm.
can we have the next date? When can we hang out again? Whatever. When I led with the like, I don't want a relationship. This is a temporary short term
Mm-hmm.
thing. And I don't want to suggest that in terms of like game playing by any means,
Yeah.
because bullshit to fuck with other people's emotions. Forgive the language here, people,
I
but
think
this
I
is
know what you're saying. Oh, dude, I dropped an F bomb a little bit ago.
yeah,
Sorry
yeah,
about
yeah.
that, by the
No,
way.
no, no. Don't worry. I don't bleep that shit out. I just mark it as explicit. Whatever. Hang if you
Yes.
want to. But yeah, I think I'm not saying that because I think that I want to encourage women in
I
any
think I
way
know
to
what you're saying. Yeah.
manipulate, yeah, the men's emotions by saying they're not interested when they are. But I love that in terms of keeping us in the moment that we're in, keeping our boundaries really clear right up front, and
Mhm.
also acknowledging that we don't know where this is going to go with this person. This is a
Yeah.
brand new experience, or even a month's old experience, or even a year's old experience, whatever, but it's this way right now. And that's
Yeah.
actually how this started with this dude. And we're going on 6 months living together, but with, no real like
Yeah.
pressure for anything because
Yeah.
it just started out as like a let's travel together and have
Yeah.
fun for a
I feel
weekend.
like what I'm hearing is it takes the pressure out of the
Yeah,
equation. And I
exactly.
think that's, maybe I do need to get back on dating apps because that's always been my issue with dating apps is it's called a dating app. And I feel like the cultural inference of that is that most people are looking for a relationship when they're
Yes.
on a dating app. And I never liked dating apps because it always felt like, and honestly, I still have this reservation. It always feels like you are meeting somebody with the intention of this potentially being a romantic relationship in whatever
Right.
capacity, serious, casual, hookup, whatever. I am beyond the point of judging because I experienced a lot of shame around that crap when I was in my 20s. I'm done with it.
Yes, you
But
don't have
like,
to have
yeah,
it.
no, like yeah, that's a whole other thing. But like I feel like that's always was my issue is it felt like I'm meeting this person with the intention of do I have romantic interest in them? And I never want to go into an initial reaction with somebody feeling that way.
Yeah.
That's what I've always struggled with about dating apps is if I meet somebody if I go to a coffee shop and I meet somebody and we have rapport, like we're meeting in a casual situation where it's not about like am I potentially going to have sex with this person in the future.
Right.
It is
Yes.
purely about, oh, there is a human, we have similar energy, we have a vibe, we get along, and there's no pressure in that.
Yes.
And I think what I like about what you're articulating here is when you go in and you remove the pressure, it's almost like both parties can be themselves, both
Yes.
parties can ask for what they want and do it without guilt. I almost think that's like the like not like I not like I don't believe in monogamy, but what
Right.
I do believe happens in the dating part of the relationship is we mold ourselves into what we think the person wants. And
Yes.
that's why relationships break down later. And I have done this and I have had it done to
Yes.
me, which is
Yes.
why I believe this so truly is I feel like you mold yourself into what you feel like you should. And when you
Right.
remove that pressure of this is going to be my boyfriend for the next 2 years, like when you
Right.
remove that pressure, you're able to show up as you are with what you want without any guilt about it.
Absolutely.
Period.
And it opens up all of that space for them not to have to fill expectations
Yeah,
that we didn't even realize we were putting on them, because we
exactly.
had this idea of what a relationship would look like and what our partner would look like
Exactly.
and how they will be in the world and all that shit. Just like, I
Hmm.
don't know. I think that's, one of the favorite things about the living in the moment version of that, and
Yeah.
exactly what you're speaking about here, is just this like embracing of the, I don't know. I don't know where this is going to go. The chemistry
Yeah.
that I feel right now, I don't know if that's going to last. I don't know if I
Mhm.
don't feel chemistry right now, if I will in
Yeah.
6 months or a year, like
Yeah.
whatever. If there's anything that we can cling to here and we want to, sweet.
Yeah.
If not,
Yeah. I
better for
actually
both.
think that was the downfall of the last serious relationship I was in, is we started it off with a we don't know where this is going. I'm not necessarily looking for something casual, but I'm not necessarily looking for a relationship either. Let's just see where it
Right.
goes. And for the first 6 months of that relationship, that worked very well. I even got to the point where I told him, I was like, I think I'm falling in love with you. And he said
Yeah.
it back to me. But I think where we went wrong is self-sabotage on my part. I acknowledge
Yeah.
that. But like I will also say I don't think he was honest with himself about the fact that where I was heading in the relationship isn't what he.
Ah,
I think he
yeah.
convinced himself that it was because we had a good time together. We had good chemistry. We were in
Yeah.
similar fields. He was an entrepreneur. I was an entrepreneur. Like, I think he convinced himself that he wanted where I was heading. And when
Yes.
he realized he didn't, it crashed and burned. It absolutely fell apart.
Yeah.
I was walking on eggshells around him, and he bullshitted up me right up until he broke up.
Oh God, I'm so
And it was
sorry.
shitty because of that. And that's where my hesitancy starts to come from. But it's like one of those things where it's like if he'd just been honest with me. And I told him that when we finally broke up, when he gave me back my keys, I told him I was just like, this could have ended a lot different if you'd just been
Yeah.
honest with me. I would have hurt, but I wouldn't have had nearly as much animosity against you as I do now because
Yeah.
you played me.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so sorry. Well, and that's another thing too, without even meaning to, because we have to, because we're humans, we carry that shit around. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
We carry into the perspective next relationship the theoretic rejection that we
Yep.
imagine we were suffering from in the past one. And so then we put on this next person all
Yep.
those same criticisms that, this person's going to criticize this or that about me. They're going to want this or that to be changed. They're not going to like this, or that,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah, and I'm sure I did that to him. I'm not I think if you talked to me like a year and a half, 2 years ago, I'd been like, it was all his fault. Rah! But no, like I think if you talk to me now, I'm like, I'll acknowledge that I do think I did that to him a little bit and I feel bad for that. But I
Yeah.
also feel like don't have a lot of trust anymore
Yes.
because I feel like I've invested so much and all I got back was bullshit. And
Yes.
that's a hard thing to carry around, of feeling like you can't take somebody at their word. Especially
Yes.
no matter the level of seriousness of the relationship, if you don't feel like you can trust what somebody is saying to you, walls are up.
Oh,
And
yeah,
I can't even
absolutely.
control the walls go up. It's like they're freaking spring loaded. It's just like, nope, you triggered me.
Yes.
Walls are up.
Yes, 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 yes. I agree 100%. And I think that
I
go ahead.
go ahead. Oh, I was gonna say, I will say that relationship was great for me in a lot of ways when it came to embracing sexuality. That is something.
Yes. Ooh, I
Shout out to
love
him.
that. Yes. Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go there a little bit, because that was
Okay.
another thing that I wanted to ask, is how you feel in terms of your
Yeah.
goddessness in your
I
body.
mean, I will say that doesn't resonate with me. But
Well, it's a little too
I actually like to I don't know if it's too woo woo. I don't know. It doesn't resonate with me. Maybe it's just
fun.
not a phrase that I would, especially as I'm standing here in yoga pants and my workout clothes. And I'm like, my hair looks good. But like
You look good. Hard stop. Anyway.
anyways, um I whenever this kind of conversation comes up with girlfriends or new friends or whatever, I will always say I'm a millennial. I was raised in the, like, frankly, sex is bad and abstinence, and if you get STIs and STDs and have a lot of sex, you're a slut kind of
Yeah.
generation. Add to that, and I know there's a lot of millennials that got through that without having that impact them a lot. But
Yeah.
I don't have an older sister. I have a mom who we had the talk, but like
Yeah.
we didn't have the talk in a way that it was normalizing sex. I mean, it kind of did,
Yes.
but like I didn't have a lot of people to talk to about sex to not make sex feel like a taboo thing. And I
Yes.
went to a high school and I live in an area where there's a very large Mormon population. There was a
Ooh.
massive amount of people, and and this is not any shade to LDS or people who are Mormon. One of
Right.
my absolute best friends from high school who I still talk to is Mormon. We always joke that we're the exact same person, except she's Mormon and I'm not, because I swear and she doesn't. I drink and she doesn't. She's got 5 kids and I don't want any kids. Like we are the same person, except she's Mormon and I'm not. But I was raised
Yes.
with a lot of, and some of my best friends were literally heading down a path where it was no sex until marriage, like in a lot of ways,
Yeah.
like very, very limited sexual contact until marriage.
Yes.
So I wasn't in that, and I didn't feel like I had a lot of people around me that understood that. So I carried a lot of like shame around sex
Yes.
into my 20s, to the point like I didn't feel like, you don't make noise when I never thought I would talk about this shit on a podcast.
Yeah.
Don't make don't make noise on like don't make noise when you orgasm. Like be quiet. Like don't like that felt very like it felt weird to me.
Yeah.
And I genuinely don't feel like I enjoyed sex, but I feel like I always used to say that the person who I will enjoy having sex with is somebody who can get me out of my head. And the aha that I had in my late 20s is I have to get myself out of my
Yes.
head.
Yes. I'm so glad you said it, because
Because
I didn't
like,
want to have to.
yeah, because up until then, I was constantly thinking about like what's shameful, what's not. And I wouldn't even necessarily think I was thinking about it as shameful, but I never felt like I was present when I was having sex.
Yeah.
I was in my head when I was having
Yeah.
sex. And up until my late 20s, I really don't feel like the sex that I had was as enjoyable as when I had my toys that I was using at home.
Yes.
Like I didn't feel like that. I actually found more enjoyment with, like, again, independent, like when I was doing it myself, because there wasn't
Yes.
as much shame there. And then I will say that what I started to realize is I've always had a lot of body image. This is going to be a very long-winded answer to this question.
I
I've
love
always
it.
had a lot of
Great.
body image issues. Unfortunately, I've always been curvy. I've always been thick. Every single woman in my family has an ass. I grew up playing soccer.
Yes.
So I have
Yes.
very, very muscular legs. And the first time this happened, I was a preteen. I have been told, I can think of at least 4 occasions off the top of my head where family members have commented on my weight. So
Oh, I'm so
I've had
sorry.
a lot of body image issues my entire life. And I think that played into the shame as well.
For
And
sure.
so for me, I think the first step was starting to get comfortable in my body. And it's funny because I'm
Yes.
actually one of my heavier weights that I've been in my life right now. I also
Wow.
think I'm one of the strongest points I've ever been in my
Yeah.
life right now. So it's like that give and take of I've got a little extra weight on me, but I'm buff. So like,
Exactly.
but like
Exactly.
I feel like my sexual shame started to stop when I started to get comfortable in my body. And I actually realized for me, it was doing little things like sleeping in like little like pajama sets that are cuter and not like I was hiding my body, and working
Yes.
out, even if I was working out at home, working out in a sports bra and not feeling the need to wear
Yes.
a t-shirt over the top. I started to realize that I had to get comfortable in my body before, like I'm kind of seeing my body before I could expect to be comfortable with somebody else
Yes.
seeing my body.
Yes.
So it was like these little incremental steps like that
Yes.
started with me just kind of starting to feel more comfortable in my skin. And then this previous relationship that I was in, he was the first person I'd ever been with who wanted to experiment a little bit in the bedroom. And I needed that because I'd always been curious about that. And it was that biggest props I will ever give him about our relationship, beyond what he did for my business, because he was a marketing person. But like, he gave me I didn't experience shame anymore about the things that I enjoy. And he was willing to experiment. I actually feel like I got to a point in our relationship where I don't feel bad about my sexuality anymore because it was embraced. It was accepted. It was the first time I'd been in a relationship where I felt like I was very prioritized, which was awesome. But I also felt like it was so fun to have somebody take the lead in that
Yeah.
way because it felt like it gave me permission to explore these things that I'd never wanted. Like I never felt
Yes.
comfortable to explore before. That was beautiful for me. And I'm like not talking about like it can, I mean, sure, maybe there's a little BDSM in there, things that are kinky in there, like whatever. Like, but I think the
That's,
thing is those things feel so taboo to so
yes.
many of us that it feels shameful to enjoy them, that we never try them, and then our sex lives never feel fulfilling because of that.
Yes.
And I feel like
Yes.
that was the first time I was in a relationship where it felt like there was acceptance from both parties to explore things without shame. And I
Yes.
needed that as kind of, I needed that to stop feeling shame about sex. And
Yes.
that is something I will absolutely credit to that relationship, is because I
Nice.
do think he got me to a point where I not only know what I like, but I don't feel shame around liking it.
Yes. I love that. I love that. I think, first of all, okay, you hit on it, and I just want to elaborate on it a little bit bigger
I
here.
just threw a lot at you.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I've got so many notes. Um, Pleasure in and of itself has been, at least in my life and most of the women that I grew up alongside, pleasure in and of itself has been shameful. Like
Yeah.
even in something as simple as eating chocolate, like you better have eaten
Yeah.
salads the rest of the week, or something
Yeah.
as lazy as watching a Netflix movie, like you better have worked your ass off the whole rest of the week, or you know what I mean? There was
Mhm.
always this, like, if it's pleasurable at all, you better have suffered to receive it. And so there was just this, like, block, I think, for so many of us about being able to indulge in pleasurable things just because it's a pleasurable thing, because we deserve that, because that's part of the human experience, because that is actually what connects us to the divinity of being something other than an animal, is to be able to
Mhm.
just, choose pleasure and go after it whenever the hell we want. Like,
Yep.
and elaborating on that, or honing in on the microcosm of that a little bit further, like, I love your experience of personal pleasure, pleasuring
Mhm.
yourself as a safer option for you, or a more open, perhaps, experience of your sexual pleasure. For me, it went totally the other way. I felt like if it didn't come from and or with a man, I wasn't allowed to do it. And so for me, my ability to
I
open up
had
my
some
sexual
friends that
pleasure.
encouraged that. Like I finally started
Yeah.
connecting with some women who I did, one of them whom I did go to. I actually remember my 18th birthday, she got me a vibrator.
Yes.
One of my best friends senior
Friend.
year. Yeah. Yeah, I
Yes.
needed her in my life. Yeah, no, she was good for me in that sense. Yeah, I needed that because
Yeah.
I needed the women in my life to tell me it was okay.
Yes, exactly. Women, it's okay. Celebrate your
Mhm.
pleasure. Get in there and figure out what
Mhm.
you like and what you don't, and then communicate that to your partner. Like, let them
Mhm.
teach them how to give you the pleasure the way
Mhm.
that you want, because we're all going to be different, and he's not going to be
Mhm.
able to know without a little guidance. So,
You said something to me before too about will you receive it? Like if somebody does something
mhm,
nice for you. I actually think, and again, credit to this previous relationship, that is
yeah,
the one place I have no trouble receiving. I
yeah,
actually know for me, this is, and I've, from the women I've talked to who identify as being very independent, this is any men listening or anybody listening who deals with
yes,
women like this.
yes,
We have all said, I'm in control. So, or some variation of this. I am in control in every other part of my life. I do not want to be in control of the bedroom.
yes, yes,
And that is
exactly.
100% me and the majority of the other independent women I have ever talked to in my life
Yes, yes,
is
yes.
that is that if you want to know what your women want, they want you to take control in the bedroom.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Well, and one of the things, I mean, elaborating on this toward the idea of consent, is
Mhm.
that idea of being able to just openly communicate to a partner,
Mhm.
like, you lead, please, do what you want with
Yeah.
me. And some
Yep.
of the sexiest interactions that I've ever had is when the man says, I want to just do this. Do I have permission? And I'm like, the fact that you asked has got me halfway to orgasm, but yes, whatever you want, I will lay here and receive that however you want to give
Yeah.
it. Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's such a beautiful thing. So when you walk into the bedroom,
Mhm.
wherever it may be, with whomever it might be,
Mhm.
whether this person is short or long term in your life, do you feel like hot, like sexy, like right out of the box?
Um it does. I have seasons where I don't. I
Yeah.
definitely had a season earlier this year where and it actually for me, it mirrors do I feel like I'm taking care of myself. Like I
Yeah.
actually now, even though I don't necessarily feel like I'm at my like fittest right now,
Right.
I do feel like I'm putting intentional effort into taking care of myself. So
Yes.
now I do feel like I would feel better, but earlier this year I did not feel that way. And
Yeah.
the only reason that happened with after the Super Bowl is because of some liquid courage.
Yes.
So like
Yes.
that I will like I'm so no bullshit here. So I will honestly answer
Yes.
that there are seasons where I do and seasons
Yes.
where I don't. And it
Yes.
usually mirrors how I feel about my body, usually mirrors how well I feel like I'm
Yes.
taking care of myself. And if I feel like I have been priority number 100 in my life, I
Yes.
am not going to feel like a goddess going into the bedroom. But if I
Exactly.
do feel like I'm taking care of myself, and
Yes.
I feel like I'm in a safe space where it's not like there's no judgment, hell yeah. You want a little
Yes.
striptease? I got you. Like,
Yes. 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 Exactly. Absolutely. Well, and I think that was one of my big awarenesses as a younger
mhm.
person was that, like, by and large, they're stoked to be there. We're stoked to be there. Two humans
Yeah,
touching each other in a romantic way is
yeah,
not an everyday thing for the vast majority of us. And so when
yeah.
it happens, it's pretty awesome. Drop your ridiculous insecurities, Jackie, and just love being there with this
Yeah.
human. Let him touch you. Let
And
you know.
I think it comes back to do that when you're by yourself too.
Yes,
I think one
exactly.
of the best things I ever did, and again, credit to this previous relationship, he really liked lingerie. And so I actually signed up for Adore Me, which I love because they have both loungy things and both lingerie things.
Yes.
And I just started to get stuff that I felt cute in, I
Yes.
felt confident in, I felt sexy in. And even when he wasn't around, I would wear that to go to sleep.
Yes.
And that I think adds so much. I also did a boudoir photo shoot. Highly recommend
Yes.
doing that because
Yes. I do too.
I think I've never felt like the sexy girl. Like I've never felt like that. And so I did
Yeah.
this boudoir photo shoot and went into it kind of knowing, like not knowing how the hell this was going to go out because I
Right.
don't feel sexy. How the hell is this person going to get sexy photos of me? And
Right.
I remember leaving that day and seeing some of the photos being so pumped to get those
Uh-huh.
photos back because I felt and saw myself as sexy for one of
Yes.
the first times in my life
Yes.
without any validation. I think that was the big thing. Any
Yes.
other time I felt sexy previously was when somebody told me that. And that
Exactly.
was one of the first times that I just in and of myself felt sexy.
Yes.
Highly recommend doing that. I honestly feel like for me the biggest thing has been realizing I need to do it for myself first. I need to
Yes.
start enjoying sex when it's just me pleasuring myself
Yes.
first. I
Yes.
need to start seeing myself as sexy first. I need to start getting comfortable seeing my body with less clothes on
Yes.
first before I can experience that with other people. And I
Exactly.
think that that's been a shift. And those I have my two favorite photos from the boudoir photo shoot are actually framed and hanging.
I love that. I love that so much. I love that so much. And I think it's absolutely true. And I think that, first of all, that confidence obviously just makes us even sexier and even more
Mhm,
attractive and even more desirable
mhm.
and whatever. I think that's beautiful. But the point that you hit on about the outside validation, the problem with outside validation is that it's conditional.
Yep.
If we trust this person to a certain degree, if we really believe what they say, if we already kind of think this might be true, so then we can like go all the way to whether or not it's true. Those are all elements of whether or not how profoundly, more accurately
Mhm,
said, we can believe in whatever it
mhm.
is that they're saying. But when we make that ourselves, when it comes from within, there's just this like deep knowledge of it that gets
Yep.
built up and supported by other people's,
Mhm,
opinions, comments, suggestions, whatever from the
mhm.
outside. Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's like, and again, it's like not even sugarcoating that. Like, when I see somebody checking me out, or when I hear those comments from somebody, it still feels good. Absolutely
Yes.
still feels good. But that can't
Yes.
be the only source of where that comes from.
Exactly. Exactly. And I have to be able to know that what they're saying is true
Mhm.
because, I got whistled at when I was younger, whatever, but there was always just
I'm
this
sure
like,
that
oh,
happens all the time in Latin America. I feel like that's part of Latin American culture.
yeah.
The
Latin
first
lovers
time I remember getting whistled at was in Mexico.
Yes, there is some truth about the Latin men. They are not shy about making
I
their
had somebody who was a
desires
beach
known.
peddler. I need to tell you this. I had somebody who was a beach peddler when we took a side trip to Cartagena. His name was Jose.
Yes.
He was the best man ever. I loved him.
Oh,
We totally thought he was there to just sell us shit, but when we went over and saw that he was talking to our friend about our travels, and she was from Toronto, so he was talking to her about the Toronto Blue Jays, the baseball team. He was the best,
oh.
but I will never forget his unsolicited dating advice. He goes, "Look, ladies, don't date Latin men. They're only good for dancing." Jose the beach vendor in Cartagena. Don't date Latin men. They're only good for dancing. Just like, okay.
I could see that. I could see that. Yeah.
Every time I try to dance with a Latin man, though, I'm like, no, I'm not a good enough dancer for this. Like,
Yeah, no, me neither. Yeah. That's one of my definite insecurity spots. Like I'm not
oh goodness.
If you want to take me dancing, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
We
I
can
need to learn
go.
bachata, but I can shake my
Yeah.
butt. But you ask me to do anything that
Yes.
involves like footwork or something like that, I'm like,
Yeah. No.
and I'm
And it
falling.
has to be coordinated in some way. Like I grew
Oh,
up with like, just random movements, kind of
yeah.
hip hop dancing. I
Yeah.
don't have any idea what this salsa business
When
is
I
all
was
about.
in Colombia in 2018, Despacito was really popular, and there was
Yes.
a Demi Lovato Fonzie song called Echeme la
Yes.
Culpa that I love. That Echeme la Culpa, I love the beat to that song.
Yes.
So I'm like dancing my little booty off, and he must have
Yes.
looked at me and been this one guy at this party we were at must have looked at me and been like, it looks like she has rhythm and knows how to dance. So he came over to start dancing with me, and I was just like, no, I have no idea what I'm doing in that regard. I can shake my butt. That is it.
Yes.
Laughed
Exactly.
at me. I
Thank
think he
you.
felt a little rejected, but he also laughed. He's like, okay.
Oh, sweet.
No, I felt bad. I'm just like, no. I want to enjoy the song. You want to enjoy the song. I don't think us enjoying it together is gonna work. So let's just dance separately.
Right. Yeah. Side by side, perhaps one on one like this.
Yeah.
Not gonna happen.
I should have asked him to teach me something, but sometimes I literally forget to flirt. Sometimes I'll be out and I'll be so in my bubble and in my element that I just forget. Oh, okay. Male attention, cool. Let's flirt back.
Yes.
And sometimes I'm just
There you
so
go.
in my zone that I just don't even think about
Yep.
it.
Yep. I have a similar thing too. I get so uncomfortable as soon as I feel like somebody's flirting with me that I'm just like, okay, well, I gotta go now. See you later. You know?
I resonate with that too. I 100% resonate with that. It's like,
Yeah.
it's the good thing about being put in situations where you know it's romantic is you know what to expect. But when the
Right.
flirtations just gets thrown at you in like a normal situation, I'm just like, wait, what?
Yes.
Wait, was
Exactly.
that you were flirting with me? Oh, I'm sorry,
Yes.
my bad.
And now I'm 4 hours from the situation and with no contact information or whatever. Like, damn it, Jackie.
Damn
I
it.
just blew past that
Damn
one.
it.
Yes.
Story of my life.
Right. Oh, I love it. I am so grateful for this. I had the best time. I
Same.
do have to, kind of wrap it up, but I absolutely love it. Thank you so much for sharing your stories
Absolutely.
with us. And the
Absolutely.
insights, I just love. I'm gonna hone in on a couple quick little takeaways here, ladies. Anybody that's listening, it's not ladies, all of us humans. Pleasure yourselves, girls, women, humans, men, whatever, however you identify. Do the pleasurable thing for yourself, absolutely. And focus on those moments when you can let other people pleasure you, just as moments where you are receiving the abundance of being adored, because that's just our right for everybody all the time. We deserve it.
Amen.
Amen. All right. Both the anti-religious girls here talking about the support of each other on the.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Dude, we talked about stuff today I never thought I would talk about on a podcast ever before. So this was
yes.
This was definitely an out of my comfort zone thing, but it was surprisingly easier than I thought it would be. So yeah.
Yes. That makes me so happy on so many levels. I love that so much. Thank you so much for your time. And when can we do this again? I should stop the recording first.